Ava had always believed her life was simple but meaningful. Living in Atlanta, she worked hard as a graphic designer, dreamed of building a family, and cherished the quiet moments with her fiancé, Marcus. She thought she had it all: a stable job, a loving partner, and the excitement of becoming a mother. But one evening, everything she believed in shattered. Marcus came home later than usual, his face pale and hesitant. He avoided Ava's gaze as he said the words she never expected. I can't do this anymore, Ava. I can't be the father I promised, not now." Her world froze. 7 months pregnant, Ava felt a punch to the gut. How could the man she loved, the one she trusted most, walk away from her and their child? Tears streamed down her face, but she held her growing belly, feeling the tiny kicks of her unborn baby, the one innocent life caught in the storm of betrayal. Friends and family tried to console her, but nothing could erase the sharp sting of abandonment. Ava spent the night alone, scrolling aimlessly through her phone, trying to distract herself from the heartbreak. Then she noticed something unusual: a strange email from a law firm she had never heard of. Curious and confused, she opened it. Her heart skipped a beat as she read the subject: "Regarding the estate of your late mother." Her mother? Ava had hardly known her, having been raised by her grandmother after her mother disappeared when she was a child. A sense of dread and disbelief filled her chest. She called the law firm immediately, her hands trembling. The voice on the other end delivered words that left Ava speechless. Her mother had passed away months ago, and in her will she had left everything to Ava, including a trust fund worth $10 billion. Shock and confusion collided inside her. How could her mother, someone she barely remembered, have been secretly one of the wealthiest people in the world? And why had no one told her? The realization hit hard. Her life, the one she thought was ordinary, was about to change in ways she could never imagine. Ava's thoughts immediately turned to Marcus. The man who abandoned her while she was vulnerable now had no idea what he had lost. She clenched her fists, a new determination sparking inside her. This betrayal, this heartbreak, it would not define her. Her world had crumbled, but a new one was rising, a world of unimaginable wealth, power, and opportunity, and Ava had the chance to reclaim her life on her own terms, for herself and her unborn child. Little did she know, her journey was only beginning, and it would test her strength, courage, and resilience like never before. Ava's life is about to change forever. Don't miss what happens next. Like, share, and subscribe to follow her incredible journey. The morning after the shocking news, Ava sat by her apartment window, staring at the bustling streets below. Her mind was a whirlwind of emotions: grief, disbelief, and a cautious spark of excitement. $10 billion. That number seemed impossible, almost surreal. And yet, here it was, a fortune left by a mother she barely knew, suddenly thrusting Ava into a world she had only glimpsed in movies. Her phone buzzed relentlessly. Marcus had called multiple times, leaving messages that tried to twist sympathy and guilt together. "Ava, I made a mistake. Please, let's talk," one read. Another said, "I can't stop thinking about you, about us." Ava felt a flicker of old feelings, but it was buried beneath a wall of hurt. The man who abandoned her while she was carrying his child had no right to expect forgiveness or her attention. Instead, she focused on the emails from the law firm. They outlined her inheritance, a global empire spanning tech startups, real estate, and private investments. Ava's stomach fluttered. The responsibility was enormous. She wasn't just inheriting money, she was stepping into the shoes of a woman whose influence had shaped industries, yet had remained a mystery to her own daughter. Determined to take control, Ava began researching her mother's business ventures. She studied financial reports, read interviews, and familiarized herself with companies worth billions. Each new discovery made her heart race. She realized that she was now part of something bigger than she could have ever imagined. But power always comes with challenges. Within hours, Ava noticed suspicious activity online. Journalists sniffing for stories, social media posts hinting at insider knowledge, and even messages from distant relatives claiming they had a right to her inheritance. She understood immediately she needed to be careful. Money of this magnitude attracts predators, opportunists, and deceitful people. Meanwhile, Marcus showed up at her door. "Ava, I know about the inheritance," he said, attempting a casual smile. "Maybe we can, work things out." Ava's eyes narrowed. She had no intention of letting the man who left her while pregnant manipulate her now. She held her head high, her spine stiff with resolve. "This isn't about you anymore, Marcus," Ava said firmly. "I'm doing this for me and for my child." He faltered, realizing the woman he once controlled had grown stronger while he had tried to abandon her. Ava knew that stepping into her mother's empire would not be easy. Challenges, betrayals, and even danger awaited her. But one thing was clear: she would not let anyone, not even the man who once promised her love, stand in her way. The journey ahead was daunting, but Ava felt a fire ignite inside her. For the first time in her life, she realized her strength, her resilience, and her potential. Her life was no longer ordinary, it was extraordinary. Ava's journey is just beginning, and the real challenges are coming. Like, share, and subscribe to follow every twist in her story. Ava had barely begun to process her newfound fortune when a knock at her apartment door startled her. She wasn't expecting anyone, and with everything that had happened, the last thing she wanted was another confrontation. Slowly, she opened the door to find a sharply dressed man with a confident smile standing in the hallway. "Miss Ava Carter?" he asked, extending a hand. "My name is Julian Hart. I represent your late mother's private investments and her business empire." Ava hesitated, unsure whether to trust him. "How do I know you're legitimate?" she asked cautiously. Julian's smile didn't waver. "Your mother trusted me to guide the person who would inherit everything, and, Miss Carter, she chose you." Shock coursed through her. "She chose me?" Ava whispered, still reeling from the thought that the mother she barely knew had believed she could handle a multi-billion-dollar empire. "Yes," Julian said, his tone serious. "Your mother watched over you in ways you couldn't see. She knew you had the heart, intelligence, and courage to manage this wealth responsibly, but she also wanted to make sure you were ready, and now you are." Ava's mind raced. She had spent her life struggling, working hard but living modestly. Suddenly, she was thrust into a world of unimaginable wealth and influence. Her fingers trembled as she realized the gravity of the responsibility. Julian handed her a tablet, showing her the scope of her mother's empire: global real estate holdings, groundbreaking tech companies, philanthropic foundations, and private investments she had never imagined. Ava felt overwhelmed, but also a strange sense of empowerment. This was her chance to reshape her life and secure her child's future. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. Marcus, again. "Ava, I need to see you. I made a huge mistake," his message read. Ava's chest tightened, but she forced herself to take a deep breath. She would no longer allow him or anyone to manipulate her. She was no longer the woman he could walk away from. She was powerful now, and she knew it. But Julian's expression warned her that her journey wouldn't be easy. "Miss Carter, I need you to understand. Wealth of this magnitude attracts people who don't have your best interests at heart. There will be challenges, betrayals, and even danger. But if you stay smart, focused, and true to yourself, you can honor your mother's legacy." Ava nodded slowly, determination settling in her chest. Her life had changed in an instant, and the path ahead was unknown, but she was ready. She would protect her child, embrace her inheritance, and prove that no one, especially those who doubted her, could stand in her way. As Julian left, Ava felt a spark of anticipation. This was more than money. This was power, opportunity, and a chance to rewrite her destiny. and deep down she knew someone who had abandoned her would soon realize just what he had lost. The real challenges are just beginning for Ava. Don't miss the next like, share, and subscribe to follow every twist in her incredible journey. Ava woke early, determination coursing through her veins. For the first time in her life, she felt in control of her destiny. With Julian's guidance, she began learning the intricate details of her mother's empire. It wasn't just about money, it was about influence, responsibility, and the power to change lives. Her first task was reviewing the leadership of her companies. Some executives welcomed her arrival, curious about the young woman who had inherited everything. Others were skeptical, openly questioning whether Ava was capable of filling her mother's shoes. She listened carefully, absorbing every detail, analyzing every word, and taking meticulous notes. The more she learned, the more Ava realized her mother's brilliance. The empire wasn't just about wealth, it was about vision. She had invested in revolutionary technologies, supported humanitarian projects, and created businesses that improved communities worldwide. Ava felt a deep connection forming with the mother she barely knew. It was as if, through this legacy, her mother was guiding her from beyond. But the deeper Ava dove into her mother's empire, the clearer it became that wealth of this scale came with threats. She began receiving subtle warnings, anonymous emails questioning her decisions, calls from journalists probing her personal life, and even a suspicious figure lurking outside her apartment. She realized Julian had been right. People would try to exploit her. Meanwhile, Marcus had not given up. He showed up unannounced at her office, desperate and pleading. "Ava, I know I left you, but now that you're powerful, I want to be part of your life," he said, his voice trembling. Ava's heart tightened, not from love, but from anger. He had abandoned her at her most vulnerable, and now he wanted access to her fortune. Ava squared her shoulders and looked him in the eyes. "Marcus, you don't get to dictate my life anymore. I'm building my empire, and I will protect my child and myself. You are not part of this journey." His face fell, realizing that the woman he once thought he could control was no longer his to manipulate. Determined to assert her authority, Ava held her first official board meeting. She spoke with confidence, outlining her vision for expansion, transparency, and innovation. Some executives were impressed by her insight and passion. Others, clearly threatened, exchanged worried glances. But Ava didn't flinch. She was here to lead. As the meeting ended, Julian approached her quietly. "Ava, you handled that brilliantly. But remember, this is just the beginning. There will be challenges you haven't imagined and enemies who will try to stop you." Ava nodded, a fire burning in her chest. She was ready. Her life had been shaken by betrayal and heartbreak, but now she was unstoppable. The world would soon know that Ava Carter was not just an heiress, she was a force to be reckoned with. Ava is taking control, but danger is closer than she thinks. Don't miss the next like, share, and subscribe to follow every shocking twist. Ava thought she had prepared for every challenge, every obstacle, and every opportunist, but nothing could have readied her for the first real betrayal that hit closer than she ever expected. It began with a seemingly routine meeting. Ava had called her executive team together to discuss expansion plans for one of her mother's major tech companies. Everyone appeared cooperative, nodding along as she outlined her vision for innovation and growth. She felt confident until she noticed subtle glances and whispered conversations among the senior managers. Something was off. Later that evening, as Ava reviewed emails in her office, she froze. One message caught her attention, a confidential proposal to sell a portion of her mother's empire to a competitor without her knowledge or approval. The sender was someone she trusted, someone she had believed would support her in carrying forward her mother's legacy. Her heart pounded. Betrayal stung like fire. Ava realized the harsh truth. Not everyone wanted her to succeed. Some people saw her as a naive newcomer, an easy target for manipulation and control, and now one of them had crossed the line. Determined to confront the situation head-on, Ava called a private meeting with the executive in question. The moment they walked in, she could feel the tension crackling in the air. "I know what you've been doing," she said calmly, though her eyes were sharp with fury. "I trusted you, and you tried to undermine me. Do you have any explanation?" The executive stammered, clearly caught off guard. I thought I was protecting the company. I didn't know how." Ava held up her hand. "No excuses. My mother built this empire on trust, vision, and integrity, and I will not allow anyone to jeopardize it. Consider this your final warning. Any further betrayal and you're out." The room fell silent. Ava felt a surge of power and clarity. She was no longer just inheriting billions. She was learning how to defend it, how to wield influence, and how to command respect. This was her mother's world now, and Ava had to rise to the occasion. Later that night, as she sat alone in her apartment, Ava reflected on how far she had come. She thought about Marcus, about the people who had abandoned her, and about the child growing inside her. They had all doubted her, underestimated her, or betrayed her, but she had survived. And she knew one thing for certain: this was just the beginning. There would be more betrayals, more challenges, and more obstacles in her path, but Ava had the heart, the courage, and the determination to overcome them all. Her mother's legacy was not just a fortune, it was a responsibility, a test, and a gift, and Ava was ready to face it head-on, no matter the cost. Ava's first betrayal proves not everyone can be trusted, but the biggest challenges are yet to come. Like, share, and subscribe to witness every twist in her journey. Ava had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and the overwhelming responsibility of stepping into her mother's empire. Yet nothing prepared her for the shocking secret she would uncover that could change everything. It all began late one night. Ava couldn't sleep. Her mind raced with thoughts of her child, her future, and the challenges she had already faced. To distract herself, she opened her mother's personal files that Julian had given her for review. Most were business reports and legal documents, but one folder, labeled Private Matters for Ava Only, caught her eye. With trembling hands, Ava opened it. Inside were letters, journals, and video recordings from her mother. As she read and watched, a flood of emotions overwhelmed her. Her mother had carefully documented her life, her decisions, and, most importantly, the reasons she had kept her wealth a secret. Her mother's voice came through the video, calm yet authoritative. "Ava, my child, I kept this fortune hidden because I wanted you to grow strong, independent, and resilient. The world is full of people who will try to manipulate, betray, and control you. One day, you will inherit more than you ever imagined, but only when you are ready to wield it with wisdom and courage." Ava's heart pounded. She realized her mother hadn't just left her money, she had left her a blueprint for life, for leadership, and for survival in a world where power could corrupt. But the deeper Ava delved into the documents, the more shocking information she uncovered. Among the files was a list of key individuals who had been loyal to her mother, but were now in positions of influence in her empire. Surprisingly, some of them had already started plotting against her, hoping to seize control of the fortune she had only recently inherited. And worse, Marcus's name appeared in a note her mother had written years ago, someone who had always tried to exploit opportunities he didn't earn. Ava felt a mixture of rage and clarity. The man who had abandoned her while she was pregnant could now pose a threat, not just emotionally, but financially and strategically. She realized that protecting her child, her mother's legacy, and her own future meant she had to act quickly and decisively. Determined to take control, Ava began strategizing. She would confront Marcus, solidify her loyal allies, and outmaneuver anyone who tried to undermine her. The inheritance was no longer just a gift, it was a battlefield, and Ava had no intention of losing. As she closed the final video, Ava's resolve hardened. Her mother had prepared her for this moment, and now it was her turn to step into the light, not as a victim, but as a force to be reckoned with. The next moves would determine everything. Ava just uncovered a shocking secret that changes everything. Don't miss the next. Like, share, and subscribe to follow the drama and suspense. Ava's heart raced as she prepared for a confrontation she had avoided for months. Marcus. the man who had abandoned her while she was pregnant, the man who thought he could walk away without consequences. Now, with her mother's empire and a growing sense of power and clarity, Ava was ready to face him. Marcus had called, pretending to act casual, claiming he wanted closure, but Ava had done her research. She knew his intentions were far from innocent. He was aware of her inheritance, and she had no doubt he was hoping to manipulate her for a share of her fortune. When they met at a quiet cafe, Marcus looked nervous. He tried a smile, but Ava could see the unease behind his eyes. "Ava, I've been thinking, maybe we can—" he started, his voice faltering. Ava cut him off, her tone calm but firm. "Marcus, I've spent months processing your betrayal. You left me when I needed you most, and now you think showing up will give you a second chance?" She leaned in slightly, letting him feel the power behind her words. His face turned pale, and for the first time, Ava saw fear in him. I didn't know. I thought—" "You thought wrong," Ava said. "You underestimated me, just like everyone else who tried to take advantage of my mother's empire. But I've learned something important. I don't need anyone who can't stand by me, especially not someone who abandoned me while I was carrying our child." Marcus tried to protest, but Ava's gaze was unwavering. She realized the man she once loved no longer held any power over her. He had lost his chance, not only at love, but at influence, respect, and control. Ava's focus returned to her empire. She had confronted betrayal once before, but this was different. It was personal. She knew that to protect her mother's legacy and secure her child's future, she had to be strategic, strong, and fearless. Later that evening, Ava met with Julian to discuss the internal threats within her companies. Together, they devised a plan to secure her empire, strengthen loyal partnerships, and neutralize anyone plotting against her. Ava felt a sense of empowerment unlike anything she had ever known. For the first time, she truly understood the depth of her mother's wisdom. The lessons she had left weren't just about wealth, they were about resilience, leadership, and the strength to rise above betrayal and adversity. As Ava looked out over the city skyline, she smiled, a mixture of determination and hope shining in her eyes. She knew the road ahead would still be filled with challenges, but she also knew one thing: she was no longer just a woman betrayed. She was a force to be reckoned with, ready to claim her future and protect her legacy at all costs. And somewhere, Marcus was learning a painful truth: the woman he once abandoned was now unstoppable. Ava is stronger than ever, but the biggest showdown is yet to come. Don't miss final topic. Like, share, and subscribe to witness the epic conclusion. Ava stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her mother's penthouse office, gazing at the city below. The skyline sparkled like 1,000 possibilities, each light representing the challenges she had faced and the victories she had won. Months ago, she had been abandoned, heartbroken, and unsure of her future. Today, she was unstoppable, a force forged by betrayal, love, and an inheritance that had tested every ounce of her strength. The final showdown had come unexpectedly. One of her mother's former allies, who had tried to undermine her empire, had made a bold move to seize control. Ava had anticipated it. With careful planning, she confronted the traitor directly, exposing their deceit and rallying the loyal executives around her. The board meeting had ended with a unanimous decision in her favor. The empire was hers, and under her control it would flourish as her mother had envisioned. But the biggest personal triumph was yet to come. Marcus, unable to let go, had tried one last time to manipulate her emotions. He showed up at her doorstep, confident, expecting charm and forgiveness. Instead, he met a woman transformed. "Ava, please, I was wrong," Marcus pleaded, his words desperate. Ava smiled, but it wasn't the warm, trusting smile of the past. It was calm, composed, and full of authority. "Marcus, you had your chance. You left me when I was most vulnerable, and I survived. I thrived. My life, my child, and my empire are mine to protect. You have nothing here." He stood in silence, realizing that the woman he had once controlled was now fully in charge of her destiny. For Ava, it wasn't about revenge, it was about reclaiming her power and embracing the future she had earned. With Marcus gone, Ava turned her attention to what mattered most: her child, her empire, and her vision for the future. She met with Julian, solidifying plans for expansion, philanthropy, and innovations that would honor her mother's legacy while shaping her own. Every decision she made carried wisdom, courage, and compassion, traits her mother had seen in her all along. Ava's heart swelled as she realized how far she had come. She had faced betrayal, heartbreak, and unimaginable responsibility, and emerged stronger, wiser, and unstoppable. The little life growing inside her was no longer a source of fear, but a symbol of hope, resilience, and love. For the first time in her life, Ava felt truly free, free from the past, free from fear, and free to embrace a future filled with endless possibilities. The journey had been hard, but every challenge had prepared her for this moment. She was no longer just a woman who inherited billions. She was a woman who had claimed her destiny. As the sun set, casting a golden glow over the city, Ava whispered to herself, "This is only the beginning." Ava conquered betrayal, reclaimed her legacy, and embraced her destiny. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to witness more incredible stories like hers.